Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today entitled Group Buying Options for the Municipal Sector. This is one of a series of Town Hall Tuesdays that we are presenting this year from LAS. The session today will be moderated by Susan Weiss. She's here at LAS with me. And we have a number of presenters on the line as well who will be presenting different options, different purchasing options that are available to you from the federal government and the provincial government. The focus today is on different ways of buying goods and services in the municipal sector and different things that you may need to be aware of. So for our agenda, we'll give you a quick overview of LAS, who we are. We'll review a little bit about the Canadian Free Trade Agreement and what it says about group buying. We'll hear from the federal government on their purchasing arrangements that they have available, and then we'll hear from the province on their fleet program. So to begin, just a quick overview of who LAS is. LAS is short form for Local Authority Services, and we are a corporation of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. We exist to help municipalities save money, make money, and solve their capacity issues. And we do that through aggregated purchasing and group buying programs and services. You'll find us regularly at municipal conferences throughout Ontario. And we also host a number of information workshops and sessions throughout the year that our members are invited to attend. Here's a snapshot of our reach throughout the province. Currently, we service everything, all kinds of public sector organizations. Most participants are municipalities, but we do have 39 others from the broader MUSH sector that use our programs and services. So currently, approximately 86% of Ontario's municipalities participate in one or more programs with us. And here's a list of all the programs and services we currently offer. I say currently because we're constantly listening to our members and building new programs based on their needs. So the newest programs are the ones under Digital Solutions banner through AMO, and also the Health and Safety program with 4S. Those are highlighted in red in the bottom right corner. These programs and services take advantage of group buying principles and are geared to help your organization in its day-to-day service in your communities. Today, our main focus is going to be on non-LAS group buying programs. So we're not going to talk about any of these programs necessarily today, but we feel that the programs that we are going to be talking about are going to be of particular interest to our members. As we begin, let's take a quick look at what you need to keep in mind when purchasing through buying groups, such as being a municipal organization in Ontario. Buying groups or group purchasing organizations are entities whose fundamental purpose is to allow its members to combine their purchasing power to benefit from volume prices for goods and services. The basic premise is the more you buy, the cheaper the price. So combining with your neighbors provides cheaper prices. A number of municipalities already participate in local buying groups with their neighbors, taking advantage of their procurement efforts to reduce workload and attain better pricing. The benefits of a buying group include reduced prices, a shorter procurement cycle, so this saves on staff time, and it avoids the risks associated with the public procurement process. Buying groups are well established in the healthcare and education sectors, and as I mentioned, somewhat in municipal, in that many already participate in smaller groups. The Canadian Free Trade Agreement, which replaced the AIT in July 2017 clarifies the rules around using group purchasing organizations and makes it easier for sector entities, such as municipalities, to add these organizations to their menu of sourcing options. The requirements in CFTA for these buying groups are found in Article 504, Section 5 through 7, and these apply to all covered entities, including governments, crown corporations, and the MASH or MUSH sector. When using buying groups, the CFTA requires the covered entities, so the ones initiating the buying group, to ensure procurement process is carried out in accordance with CFTA. However, there is an exception to this rule if the covered entity has little or no control over the process. So if you as a municipality are participating in a buying group, but you have had no control over the procurement, you were not involved in that, you can defer the compliance to the organization or municipality that had that control. It is your municipality's responsibility to be compliant with the CFTA. For buying groups, this means publicly declaring your intent to participate in that particular group. For those using the LAS programs or services, or the services we are going to discuss today, this means posting a declaration on the public notice website where your municipality posts competition documents for a minimum of 2 weeks and at least once annually. So examples of these posting locations could be your own website or tender websites such as Merck's, Bidingo, Bids and Tenders, just as some examples. As a government organization, it's important to check that your procurement policies also allow the use of buying groups. If they do, you should analyze the pros and cons of using a buying group, since there is no one-size-fits-all method for sourcing goods and services. You may find significant benefits to your organization, but some may not. As we listen to the next presenters, think about how you might use their goods and services and whether their options might provide you efficiencies in terms of time or cost savings. I'm going to introduce our first speaker for the day. Sean Crossan is the Director of Federal, Provincial, Territorial, and International Relations within the Acquisitions Program at Public Services and Procurement Canada. He has held several executive positions within the Government of Canada over the last 29 years. He has taken the Canadian Collaborative Procurement Initiative, which he'll talk about today, from its inception to where it is today, with 10 provinces and territories and 55 mass sector organizations participating, and a 3-year plan with approximately 90 procurement instruments. We won't be focusing on all 90 of those today, but he will be focusing on some key instruments that may be of interest. So the 3-year CCPI plan can be found at the website shown, canada.ca/buying-together. And today, Sean will be talking about different goods and services available to the municipal sector through the federal government. So I'll welcome Sean to the stage and we'll put your presentation up.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks for that introduction. So folks, as you know, the buying groups and what we call collaborative procurement, or we call in the U.S. cooperative procurement, has been expanding significantly. In the United States, it's been happening for about 25 or 30 years. In Europe, it's been happening maybe over the last decade, and it's happening in other countries around the world. Canada is starting to catch up in that area, and so I'm going to tell you about an opportunity with respect to the Canadian Collaborative Procurement Initiative. I want to echo Jeff's point that this is one tool in your toolbox. I don't think there's any one single instrument or group that can meet all the needs of everybody. And it's good to have different tools for different, in your toolbox for different situations. So we'll just go to the first slide just to give a sense of how big the marketplace is in terms of public procurement in Canada. So as you can see, public procurement in Canada, it's about $200 billion spent annually, with the federal government on average spending about $20 billion. That's just PSPC, Public Service Procurement Canada. Public Service Procurement Canada is the single largest public procurement agency in Canada. However, the MASH sector, the municipalities, academic institutions, schools, and hospitals, is actually the largest sector in Canada. So that contributes about 70 to 80% of the $200 billion estimated in terms of public expenditures in Canada. Provinces and territories are overall at 10 to 15%, and then we've already talked about the federal government. Jeff mentioned that some of the benefits of collaborative procurement are economies of scale, the better prices. But I think even more important in this day and age is reduced administrative and legal burden, because we know that there's a shortage of procurement experts right across this country. So not only across the country, but in Ontario as well. So with this lack of expertise, people are relying on fewer resources to create opportunities like this. One of the other benefits is streamlined procurement efforts. So I think for suppliers, they're looking at a bigger marketplace other than writing up 10 or 12 RFPs and putting in all these legal documents to meet the procurement requirements. They're only putting in one. Another consideration is socioeconomic considerations, and this is growing and becoming more and more important. So, for example, green procurement is extremely important. So pricing isn't the only issue nowadays. Procurement has become more complex. So we have green, we have women-based businesses, we have Aboriginal businesses, and there's other factors many other factors that are being considered in terms of procurement. And so all depending on what your priorities are and what your strategy is, that could affect your buying, how you buy and who you buy from. One of the things that we found over the last 3 or 4 years is that the sharing of knowledge and best practice has really helped to enhance the procurement industry and helped us to help one another. Colleagues up in the Northwest Territories that are looking for a procurement instrument, they can get online and buyandsell.gc.ca. So buy and sell Government of Canada, gc.ca is the federal government website where we post our public tenders in order to meet all of the trade requirements. So that sharing of knowledge and that discussion, one-on-one discussion after our regular meetings is a real bonus. And then we see that what we're doing is aligning with standard practice in many G7 countries and other nations, as I talked about earlier. These are among the reasons that Public Service and Procurement Canada is launched the Canadian Collaborative Procurement Initiative. In February 2015, there was an order in council that was created to give Public Service and Procurement Canada this authority to share our procurement instruments with other levels of government, so provinces and territories, municipalities, academic institutions, but as well Canadian public health and aid organizations. What happened at that time, we hired KPMG, so both provincial and the federal government got together, we hired KPMG. KPMG went out and did a study and said, where do we want to buy things together? And about 30 different commodities were identified. So we knew that there was an interest at that time to move forward. I arrived here in July 2015, and since then we've created a small team. There's 5 of us, and we've signed agreements with currently 10 provinces and soon to be 11, as the province of British Columbia is just going through the legal work it requires to move forward. So as I said, we have 10 provinces and territories, about 30 municipalities, and about 30 MASH sectors and MASH sector entities, and that number keeps growing every day. So right across the country, in Ontario, Northumberland County, the City of Ottawa, City of Toronto, Peterborough County, and there's several others that recently have come on as a result of the office supplies standing offer that we'll need to add to that list. Anyways, all that to say that we are growing every day, and interest across the country is tremendous. So this year in particular, we've done a couple things to make it easier to have open access to our Canadian collaborative procurement tools. We predominantly operate through the provinces and territories. However, there's been some technical challenges there. So what we've done is we've opened a CCPI Government of Canada Collab web application, which is fully open, which has details on our program, has the 3-year plan, and it just makes it a lot quicker to access. So we're trying to figure out, as people bring issues forward, how we can make information more readily available. We've also developed a toolkit that's available on this website, which has guidelines and specific information on how our program works, so that people can go and read up and get further information. So these kinds of electronic tools have helped people better understand what we're doing and therefore join the initiative. The big thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is that we have a 3-year plan with about 90 procurement instruments that's growing every day. The 3-year plan provides commodities that we make available normally, so they're made available to federal government departments, and then other entities are able to join that initiative via their provincial government. So this year, last year we had 43 procurement instruments. This year we have 24. Next year we have 20, and it's growing. I just wanted to say that currently it's focused only on goods. However, in the fall, we will start our first services pilot project. It'll be a change management pilot project. We want to make sure we get it right. So we are going to be piloting that, making sure all the terms and conditions are proper and everything is working smoothly. And then once we make sure that everything's working smoothly, we will then expand. So I'll get to that in a minute. So we have both national procurement instruments and regional procurement instruments. So for those of you in Ontario, we have the Ontario region out of our Ontario Toronto office that offers regional procurement instruments. And then we have national procurement instruments that all organizations can apply to use once they go into the Doing Government with the Business of Ontario website and register. And at the end of the presentation, I'll get into the details about what you do need to do in terms of registering. So what we here is just a quick overview of the 3-year plan, the year, the status, it's active, the type of procurement instrument, it's a national procurement instrument, the good description, it's stationery and records forms, and it's for office paper. So for example, we would do a 1-page summary or 2-page summary that would be listed on our GC Collab website, which is the tool I talked about previously, and that would have further details about the procurement instrument, so that if you want to get further details, you have access en anglais and en français aussi, so in both official languages. And we also have the name of the procurement officer, their phone number and email address, should you wish to participate in particular instruments. If you miss the train or you miss the boat, then you've missed the opportunity to participate. So it's very important to let Lydia and via the Ontario government website, make them aware of your interest in any of these particular commodities. So some of the ones that we've been offering is office paper, which I'll talk about in a minute, office supplies, lab supplies. We do tires, snowmobiles, ATVs. There's a whole number of procurement instruments that are available. One of the examples that we've had a lot of success in using our CPPI standing offers is the paper standing offer. So I'll just talk a little bit about paper. So paper, as you can see, office paper, we've had about $700,000 in paper that's been purchased so far as of Christmas this year. Paper came online, I think, in the spring. So it's over a short period of time. We're having a lot of use. So this is environmental paper. TSPC gets the best price in the country. We have the highest rate of purchasing for environmental paper in the country. And that's been confirmed by the supplier. So this is an area where there's some tremendous benefits. In terms of office supplies, we had about $400,000 of office supplies that have been used. That's predominantly the province of Prince Edward Island and some other small MASH sector entities. We also have roadside oral fluid testing device. That's the marijuana testing device. There's a lot of interest in that, and that's starting to take off, and we're expecting that is an instrument that will see a lot of take up as marijuana stores are open and it grows across the country. Motorola radio equipment, province of Nova Scotia has purchased about $60,000 in that area. P25 subscribers, etc. Commercial tires, snowmobiles, and laboratory supplies. You can see various take-up rates to date. Those take-up rates are moderate. We've haven't been promoting the program, and what we've been doing is getting all the provincial and territorial agreements in places, and then getting the process fine-tuned, and working on all those kinds of documents and things that you need to do in order to make things run smoothly. So that's where our focus has been for the last little while. We're really, this year, we're just going out and marketing and promotion, and to this year, it's going to be a big push in getting the word out. So we're very pleased to be here today. Some of the future opportunities for services on the next page are change management training pilot project in the fall, IT professional services. We think there's going to be a lot in this area, office ergonomic assessment services, temporary help services, etc. We think that is going to expand considerably. And like the provincial government, we're also looking, and I think it's not this year, but next year, we're looking at offering certain automotive opportunities. We will slowly but surely have more offerings in those areas. So if you're interested in joining the CCPI in Ontario, you need to notify the Government of Ontario of your intention to join the CCPI. You go to the Doing Business with the Government of Ontario website, send an email to us. There's a telephone number there, and Lydia and her team will be pleased to provide you with further information. So if you're a Government of Ontario MASH sector entity and you recognize by the province and have created an Ontario Doing Business account, you will be able to access the CCPI. Procurement instruments offered can be viewed through our 3-year plan. Once enrolled, you must inform the Government of Ontario's CCPI coordinator, that's Lydia, which procurement instruments that you're interested in on this plan. This should be done annually or more frequently, biannually, so that you make sure that you're on board and you don't miss the train. So it's important to express your interest with the Ontario government. So for each procurement instrument your organization is eligible to use, you must contact the Government of Ontario through Supply Chain Ontario, who will provide you with names and contact information for the suppliers on each standing offer. So if you're registered and you're listed on the as an organization has demonstrated interest in something, say it's office paper, environmental paper, then what will happen is that the Supply Chain Ontario will have the name and contact information of the suppliers who have been successful for that respective procurement instrument, and then you contact the supplier, and since your name is already on the procurement instrument, the supplier looks at it and says, "Oh yes, your name, you're the city of Barrie or the city of Guelph. Yes, your name's already on there. Yeah, you're entitled to it. Here is the procurement instrument, and here's the prices and the terms and conditions." So your organization will then be able to do a call-up based on the Government of Canada's standing offer. So that's basically how it works. If you had any specific questions that you'd like to obtain further details, you can write to us at collaborative.procurement@ontario.ca. So we can give you further information. If you want to contact me directly or my office, that's our website. It's our email address. Sorry.
There was one question that came up during the presentation that we saw. Are there any costs to joining?
None. Actually, there's no cost, and that's one of the benefits of it. And it reduces your risks. So the smaller jurisdictions have been joining because a lot of the suppliers don't want to take the risk of going into some markets. So by joining with us, it's risk-free. There's no fees, and the other big issue which I wanted to just clarify is there's no requirement to use the procurement instrument after you receive the actual procurement document and the prices if you find that it's not meeting your needs or if you're getting better terms and conditions or prices. So you come and you look, and if it makes sense, at the end of the day you'll use it, and if it doesn't, then you don't use it. That risk-free approach is very attractive.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you talking about that. I know our members are going to be very interested in that. And I just wanted to mention that we will include the process for joining CCPI in our follow-up email later this week. As well, we're working with Sean right now to put some of this information into a blog, and that blog hopefully will be published mid-June. That might answer some questions, and it will also reiterate some of the information you've heard today. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Jeff.
So I'm going to introduce our next speaker today. We have two people on the line from the province. Linda Toledo is Manager Goods Procurement Unit, Enterprise Procurement Branch with Supply Chain Ontario from the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services. For the past 2 years, Lydia has led the Goods Procurement Unit, responsible for the establishment of enterprise-wide vendor of record arrangements for a variety of goods and services, including fleet vendor of record arrangements that are used by the government agencies and on an optional basis for non-Ontario public service entities. Prior to that, Lydia was a senior procurement consultant of e-procurement solutions and business service procurement unit at Supply Chain Ontario for over 10 years. The second presenter we have joining Lydia today is Brian Cowan. He's a manager at Fleet Management Center with the Ministry of Transportation. For the past 9 years, Brian has led the Ontario Public Service Fleet Management Center in delivering fleet services to all government ministries and select agencies. And prior to that, he was the manager of fleet services at the OPP for 8 years after spending 15 years in various positions with large private sector fleet management companies. So let's welcome Lydia and Brian to our webinar. And Lydia and Brian will just bring up your slides and you can take it away.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. So we would like to start that we echo exactly the same that Sean was telling about the bulk buying. So Enterprise Procurement Branch in Supply Chain Ontario is responsible to create these enterprise vendor records that the take is consolidate the spend to having a better value. So we established the vehicle acquisitions and upfitting vendor record that contains several categories, but for this webinar, we are talking about category 1A, that is the general vehicle acquisition. So the purpose of this webinar is just to assist to the non-OMPS entities to understand how they can leverage our vendor record arrangement. So the Ontario government established this vendor of record on July 1st, 2017, that contains category 1, that is general vehicle acquisitions through an open competitive process. The vendor of record terms is for 5 years with 2 options of 1-year extensions. The original terms is from July 1st, 2017 to June 30, 2022. The first extension is from July 1st, 2022 to June 2023. And the second extension is from July 1st, 2023 to June 2024. The use of this vendor of record is mandatory for all the ministries and some of the agencies, and is available on an optional basis to the non-OPS entities. This vendor of record also has an annual refresh opportunity for new vendors to join the vendor of record arrangement. What it means that every year we open the vendor of record again for new vehicle manufacturers to join as a part of the selected vendors. Also, as a part of our process in this vendor of record arrangement, we have on an annual basis, we request a quotation from all the manufacturers about the new model and the vehicle specifications. In the way that the government works in the Ontario government, Supply Chain Ontario is the responsible for the contract, but we also have the Ministry of Transportation Fleet Management Center, who is responsible of the vehicle operations for the OPS. The scope of the vendor of record is for passenger vehicles enforcement, light commercial, conventional, hybrid, electric, and emerging technologies. We try to include the most scope for different variety of vehicles that the different entities can be utilizing. These vehicles are delivered through the manufacturer deal network, and some of feeding package from vehicle manufacturers are included as appropriate. As a part of our process, we also create what I call a vehicle selector tool that is part of our request for quotation when we send it to the vendors in an annual basis so they can quote it. So currently we have 8 vendors who are qualified for the provision of this category: Ford Motors, Company of Canada Limited, General Motors of Canada Company, FCA Canada, Toyota Canada, Mitsubishi Motor Sales of Canada, Kia Canada, Nissan Canada, and Volkswagen Group Canada.
Okay, so I'll just jump in. Thanks, Lydia. So what we do at the Fleet Management Center is we take the VOR arrangements that Lydia has established for us, and we provide her with a list of vehicle specification categories that they go out, and as she mentioned, every year we do an annual price refresh. Once the manufacturers have provided quotations for those vehicles and those vehicle specs, we go through what we call a total cost of ownership analysis, and we review each vehicle in terms of its capital cost, expected cost for fuel based on the fuel economy ratings. We look at expected maintenance cost, and we get that from an industry established database. And we look at potential resale value, which we get from Canadian Black Book. And we evaluate each vehicle against each other and within each specific category. So we're looking at, again, trying to get the best vehicle options for each, again, each spec and for each particular business need. And in doing that, we don't just select every vehicle that is offered to us. We only look at those vehicles that are, we take the lowest cost, total cost of ownership vehicle, and any vehicle that comes within a 10% cost variance from that will be included on our selector. So this is just a sample of our current selector for passenger vehicles. So as you can see, we have a number of different vehicles in each category. However, not all manufacturers are represented in each category simply because they don't have whatever vehicles that they provided, and the pricing didn't meet the 10% threshold. You'll also see there's a number of vehicles that their spec is highlighted in green. So those are green choices, whether they be hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery electric vehicles that have met as well the total cost of ownership analysis. So, that particular factor has helped us really to promote hybrid vehicles throughout our fleet over the years, and to the point where we now have about 1,700 hybrid vehicles in our passenger vehicle fleet.
So how the municipalities can access the vendor of record? So the non-OPS entities can leverage the concessions of the discounts that we have with the manufacturers under this vendor of record. If you wanted to access to the full information, please log into the Doing Business website and you will find the user guides, the concession discounts, the process of how to establish it. Currently, we have 2 available processes. For any vehicle orders for Ford, GM, FCA, and Toyota, then you can leverage the concessions through the dealer network by conducting a tender process or a quotation, depends on what is the rules that you need to follow, and including the documents and language that you wanted to leverage our vendor of record discounts. And the other process is for Mitsubishi, Kia, Nissan, and Volkswagen. You actually can leverage the concession directly with the vehicle manufacturer. But first, the non-OPS entities will require to sign a separate agreement with the manufacturer to be linked to our master vendor of record.
If you do have a question, type it in the chat window or in the Q&A box, and we'll respond to it. So the question is, would this include various trucks?
So yes, trucks are included up in, well, whatever products that those manufacturers offer. So in the case of GM and Ford and Ram, you can go up to, maybe a 5,500 or something like that. But I didn't include them in the total cost of ownership analysis. We do that analysis for half-ton pickups and vans. Except when you get into the 3/4 ton, you can't get NRCan ratings for fuel economy, so it's kind of pointless. And we don't exclude any pickup trucks from our selector simply because there's only really the big 3 plus Toyota maybe has some in some categories. So we include all trucks on our selector. It's just a matter of which truck meets a particular business need.
Okay. The next question we have is there the same requirement for joining prior to open market competition, the same as the federal CCPI program?
No. Right now, the vendor of record arrangement is available to be leveraged at any time for any of the entities. We actually include the language that it will be an optional basis to all the non-OPS entities.
Okay. Next question is the presentation going to be sent to participants? Yes, we will be sending out links and presentations following this later on this week. So if you missed anything or you want to re-listen to portions of this presentation, this will be made available to you and on our website. The next question is, so are you saying that we can go to our local vehicle dealerships and use the vendor of record from the province to get a further discount?
So what the vendor of record does is the manufacturer offers some of the discounts. So what you do depends on the procurement instruments that you are utilizing, like I say, RFP or quotation. You just ask them to be linkage to provide the discounts of our vendor of records.
Next comment is, we have used the province's information for purchasing vehicles, but did not realize that we could directly approach some vendors directly, especially the green vehicle information. Is the contact information available on your website?
Yes, all the contact information and all the process and steps is available in our Doing Business website.
Okay. And the final question we have right now is, how does the vendor of record program comply with CFTA?
We work with our policy folks in the OPS to make sure that we are in compliance with the CFTA. So the way that is wording, all our terms and conditions are in compliance.
So in terms of notices and maximum buying costs and making sure that the tenders are out on the street for required lengths of time, that's all taken care of by the province.
Correct.
Okay. We'll move on. We've just got a couple more slides.
Just before we move on, Jeff, I just wanted to also say that if anybody's interested in getting a copy of our selector, I'd be more than happy to send that out. just so you can see how we've evaluated, or how vehicles have been evaluated, or how they rank. So
Okay.
if you want to send out my contact information, shoot me an email and I'll be more than happy to send it out to you.
Okay. So we'll present that.
But at least the ranking.
Thanks for the offer, Brian. We will put your contact information up shortly.
Okay.
So in addition to the options presented by the province and federal government today, LAS is actually working on a new program which will provide you with even more competitively priced goods for your everyday needs. So this is in addition to what the province and federal government already offer. We are just putting the final touches on our contracts, and we hope to launch this program this summer. And we know it will be welcomed by many of our members because it includes things that you've been asking for as well. So watch the AMO watch file and your email for announcements when we're ready to go. There was one other question for Lydia and Brian that just came in. So this, your vendor of record and your fleet program, so this would reduce tenders for municipalities?
That is one of the intents, to do bulk buying and also to have the benefits of our concessions discounts.
So can you just clarify for us then, because you did mention that some municipalities could do a tender and mention the MCGS vendor of record in their tender. Do they have to do a tender, or?
Well, we currently have two processes. For some of the manufacturers, you have to go through to tender or quotation. It depends of the directives that the municipality needs to follow. For some of the manufacturers, you can sign an agreement directly with the manufacturers.
So,
and would that information be on your website as well? Which ones you have to tender and which ones you don't?
Correct. All the information is available in our website.
Okay.
And that was actually in the slide deck. And just to kind of give an example, if you're looking for a General Motors product, and you have 3 or 4 GM dealers in your community that you need to tender to, you would use whatever instrument you would normally do. You go out to those dealers and you also say that you can include the Ontario government concession in your pricing. So each dealer will price out that vehicle as they see fit, and then add that additional discount and give you your price back. But again, it would be depending on whatever your own individual rules are for tendering within your community.
All right, that's excellent. I just want to thank you again, Sean and Lydia and Brian, for taking the time to join us today on this webinar. I know that our members will definitely benefit from these arrangements and these different buying groups. And like I said, we will send out the presentation link and post it on our website, and we'll continue this idea of group buying in our everyday services that we provide, and in some of our outreach and information that we put out over the coming months. So thank you again. Thanks to all the attendees, and I hope you have a great day.